Hey friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers at the Celebration Shop, and today we are on day 6 of my 12 days of Cricut Christmas. So today we're making personalized Santa list ornaments, and these could be nice lists or these could be naughty lists, just depending on how everybody's acted all year round, right? And of course, I think 2020 as a whole would be on the naughty list, right? This whole COVID thing, I am so over it. I don't know about you guys, so over it. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me for all of my videos in this series. And if you like what I'm doing here today, guys, give me a thumbs up. That really helps with the video. And so we're gonna hop over to Cricut Design Space. I'm gonna show you all the things that we're doing and how easy this is to put together. And then we'll go over to the craft table and we'll craft it up. Okay guys, let's get going. Here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I've gone ahead and pulled in some things that we're going to work with, and I'm kind of showing you where it started over on the left and how it's going to end over on the right. So the very first thing you need to do is just go in and get a blank canvas. If you're on the home page, there's a rectangle or a square there that says new. Click on that. If you're already in Cricut Design Space, there is a new button right here in the left-hand navigation. So I designed for Cricut Design Space, and this is actually one of my designs that I did last year, and so it's in a cartridge, and I can show you guys how to get into that, or I'll put a link down in the description below, but I'll also put down there the actual item number so you can search that item number and pull up this exact cut. So if you click on this, this is actually a collection of, it's one cut, but it's like several items in that one cut. And then below that, this is just another, this one's not mine, this is someone else's, but it's just an alternative if you want to do a naughty instead of a nice list. And I probably will do some of that as well. But what I wanted to show you is how you can take something that someone else designed and sort of make it your own, using elements that are already inside of that design, but just mixing it up a bit. So this ornament is going to have a print then cut feature, which is this top piece here, because I wanted to introduce some red without having to like cut out paper and then overlay vinyl onto that. Although if you're not comfortable with print then cut, you can do that. And then we're going to be using our pen tool for this bottom element. Okay, so if you go into images and type in nice list, it's one of the first things that pops up for me, and I'm hoping it would be for you as well, but I will put that code down below. So what we're going to do is we can take that and bring that in. Okay, and I'm just going to move everything over a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to make this larger. Okay, so these elements are all one, but if you look over into the layers panel over on the right, when I designed it, I broke everything into pieces for the most part. I did group this nice and the red on the stocking and then this element, but I'm going to show you how to break that out as well. So the first thing that we want to do is sort of look at it and say, okay, what do I want to keep and what do I not want to keep? I want to actually use all of it except for the stocking, but I want to kind of break things apart. You see how this is much larger than the one that I provided in the original design. That's easy to fix. So let's go ahead and just start peeling this off piece by piece. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get the word nice and the word list alone. I want to have them by themselves. So if you go over into panel and you click on the word list, you see that it highlights by itself. So now I'm just going to duplicate that. I'm going to keep, in case I want to make several of these, I'm going to kind of keep that the way that it is. So now I have the word list, and then I'm going to click back on it and look at nice. So this one's a little trickier. See, nice is in there with the red on the stocking and this bottom element. So when I duplicate that, I'm just going to bring it over, and then I'm going to go into contour, and I'm going to hide everything that is not part of the word nice. And actually, I think I just turned off two things that I didn't want to. So these little elements inside of the lettering. This one is actually part of the stocking and this one's not. We want to keep those because that actually cuts them out. If you don't keep them, then it will cut larger all the way around and you won't have those nice little pieces in the middle. Okay, so now all you have to do is click off of it. And so now you see you have the word nice all by itself. Okay, so we also want to go in and we want this banner. So let's go back into this. We'll duplicate it, pull that over, and we're going to do that process again. We're going to go back into the panel and we are just going to click on this element and we're going to hit contour. And this time, because there's so much of it that we don't want, I'm going to click on hide all contour. It's this little button right here. For some reason it's not showing up very well, but it's this bottom button always. And then I'm just going to go back and click on the one that I do want to keep. Okay, so now that I have my banner, what I'm going to do is this little lock here, I'm going to unlock it and see then I have this square that has arrows in all directions, which means I can manipulate the size of that any way I want to. Okay, so what I would like to do, because I've already measured this, I'm going to just go over and kind of check it out and make sure it's about the size that I want it to be. Okay, and so basically I'm going to cut or rip the piece of paper that we're going to be using any size I want it to be. So if your family list is really long or if it's really short, you can manipulate this to fit your family. I want it to roughly be about 5 inches wide. And so, but you can always resize this whole thing like once you get done. So for now, we'll just go with what we have. So now we have the banner and we have nice and we have list. And so what we want to do next is I actually want to, if we look back over on what I did, I want these two to be white. Okay, so then I'm going to just go over into color sync. And so I want to move that up into white. And then I have this one by itself and I move that up into, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to move list. Okay, so you can literally just drag and drop these into the correct bucket. Okay, so now we have our list and I want to make it a little bit smaller and I also want to go into arrange and move it to the front. Okay, and then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and then we'll take nice and we'll do the same thing. We're going to make it smaller. And then we are going to go into arrange and send it to the front so that it sits nicely on top of our banner. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to get 2020 on our nice list. So I'm just going to go back over into our same piece here. I'm going to duplicate it and then I'm going to get rid of everything except the 2 and the 0. So we're just going to turn that off, off, off. And now I'm going to duplicate it and then I need to be able to break them apart. So we're going to hit ungroup. So now I have each one of them ungroup. I have them individually. So I'm going to move them up somewhat close together. Don't fret too much about them not lining up perfectly. So now that I have all 4, I'm going to grab them. I'm going to go up into align and I'm going to align bottom. So see now they're all bottom. And then I'm going to go back into align and I'm going to distribute them horizontally. So they're perfectly centered. Now if you don't like how far apart they are, we could make them a little bit more, a little bit closer because it's going to adjust based on these outer 2. So let's just quickly do that one more time. So we're going to distribute horizontally, very good. And just to make sure, I'm going to align back to the bottom. Okay, so now that I have these, what I want to do is I want to attach them. I don't want them shifting anymore. And then I'm going to go up into color and I'm just going to shift them to white. Okay, so now what I want to do is I take this, which is a group now, and I'm going to go up and make it a little bit smaller so that it fits on my list. You can do all kinds of adjustments here, make it a little bit smaller again. Okay, and I'm going to make this bigger so you can see. Okay, so now that we can see this, so if you look at this, you can faintly see a black line around this whole thing. So right now, this is not a print then cut. If you look at everything over here, this is cut, 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 and I don't want that. I want it to print then cut on one nice little banner. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to go up into fill and we're going to hit print. Do you see how that brightens everything up? What it's doing is it took away the black line all the way around it that would be cutting it. And if you go over and you look here, you're going to see all of it says Print Then Cut. Well, I want it to not only attach, but we're going to go down and hit Flatten and see how that shifted it from all of those Print Then Cut pieces to one flattened element. So see, it's an actual banner. Let's undo it. Okay, you see in the panels how everything is a cut then print. I mean, it is going to print it, but it's going to cut it individually, the 2, the 0. You want to grab the whole thing and flatten. And so now it's literally one cute little nice list with the date and everything on it. How sweet is that? And then you can readjust this based on how big you want that to be on your ornament. Okay, so now that we have our cute little nice list 2020, we are going to then go into text, and I'm going to type everyone's name in. So for me, that's going to be Alex, and then Cole, and then Kim, and then we'll do one for the hubby. Okay, so now we have all of these. And I had already selected writing in style when I did the other one. That's why it automatically went to writing. But most of the time it's just going to go to regular, which is a cut. Now, whenever you do this, you always want to select in filter a writing font. So that way it brings up only things that are writing. Okay, so if you look right here, you can always make sure because it's going to say writing. And then you can scroll through and pick out what font you think would be great. I believe I used one called Royalty, old school. I think that's what it's called. Let's just see if I can find it. Royalty, yay. Okay, so now, isn't that cute? But now look how much space is in between all of those. I don't want that. I don't want all that space. So now what I want to do is go up into line spacing and just start reducing that. And it's not going very fast, so you could speed it up a little bit. And then we'll keep reducing. Okay, so now we have this fun little list that our pen is going to write. And then we have our banner top. Okay, so now the next thing that I wanted to do, and this is kind of mean of me, right? But I thought how fun it would be to like strike through my husband's name. I wouldn't do that to the kids, but strike through his name. And so then I just went over into shapes and I grabbed a square and I took an unlock off. You could probably find just a line in Cricut Design Space like in images if you wanted to do it that way. But I just thought that was fun. So I took that and then I'm going to make that way. And then if you go up into cut and you do draw, you see how it kind of looks like a double line. And I just kind of put it over the top of his name. I know, so mean, right? And the cool thing is you can go up into this little feature here where it's showing you a square, and you can change your pins. So if you wanted each child to be in a different color, or if I wanted this strike through to be in a different color, maybe that's in red, then I could do that there. And so then for all of the names, I could go up and say, I really want that to be not fine point, but maybe we're going to do that in calligraphy. And so we could change that to calligraphy. And so then the pen, the machine is recognizing which pen you're using. And so then it's also recognizing that my red is going to be a different type of pen. So maybe I use fine point and it's red. Okay? So now that I have all of that together, I want to grab all of those names and I want to attach them because I want to make sure that they go onto, write all at the same time. Okay, so now that we have the whole thing, I can grab it and see what size it is. So this is 5.6 by 8.4, and then you can adjust it, moving it up or making it smaller all together. So if we grab the whole thing, then we would be able to adjust it down. So if we wanted it to be, 3.5 would be a great size. And this would also be a really fun gift, guys, to do for other people in the family. Okay, so now that we have all of this together, what we want to do is we want to, I'm going to clean up all of that other stuff that I created and hide all of it. And then we're going to choose our machine, which is Maker. today, but you could use your Explore for this as well. You can't use your Joy because it doesn't do print then cut, but your Maker or your Explore would. So I'm going to go over here and close all of these out, and then we'll make it. And it's just telling me the project is big. Okay, so see now how this is going to be printable vinyl. You can also use printable stickers, that kind of thing. And see this bounding box here? This is basically, it prints it. When you send it through your printer, it's going to print the bounding box and it's going to print the piece. And then you're going to be able to see, or this is how the machine, you know, reads when you put it onto the mat and put it into the machine. This is how it reads the cut. Now for me, I really like to do a full sheet of print then cut at one time. So I would throw on different things, that maybe more of these if I was going to do multiples of these for maybe family members. But then I might even throw on some things for gift tags or my kids' names or stuff like that, just because I'd want to use up that whole sheet whenever I did a print then cut. And then if you look at your second mat, you'll see that this is all drawn. So Alex, Cole, Kim, Steve, and then so you just need to make sure that you see you grab this. And so the piece of paper that I'm going to be using, I'm actually going to adjust this down to be approximately where I want it to be on that sheet. So my sheet's going to be roughly, I think, 5 or 4.5 by 7, because I have to have room for my banner there. And so just make sure that you put your writing down in where it would, you know, sit on the paper the correct way. And because it's just paper, guys, you could do this and sort of test it on a regular piece of white paper and then go back and see how that lines up on the sheet that we're going to do. And I'll show you that when we get to the craft table. Okay, so now we can go ahead and hit continue. Okay, and so for my print then cut, I am going to be sending that to the printer. So see, literally you're going to take that sheet, you're not going to put it on the mat, you're going to take it over to your printer and put it in just like a normal piece of paper. Make sure that you watch for the directions on your printer, whether it's face down or face up, and then you're going to send that to print. Now, if you do this and you get called away to something else, you see here it says I've already printed it. You can come back and do that again, but you've already printed it, and then you can just pick up and go from there. That's a new thing as of the last year or so, which is super helpful. Okay, send to printer. And so when you get here, it's just going to show you this is what your sheet looks like. I always do a bleed, and what that means is that it's going to make it a little bit chunkier than the actual piece. So if the calibration of the needle is off just a little bit, you're going to still get that good cut. So I always use a bleed. And then I'm just going to do one copy, and if you had more than one printer, you could do the drop down there. You can also use the system dialog. So like if your printer has a dialog, let me turn that on for you and so you can see that. But basically it'll pop up and ask you what quality of print you want and that kind of thing. Okay, so it's not showing completely on my screen, but this is what that looks like. You know, it's that little dialog box that pops up and it shows you what the print is going to be, and then you can choose media quality and all that kind of thing. So you can do that here, or print it black and white, whatever you want to do. And then I usually go up to best because most of the time I'm trying to print this as a picture basically. And so let's hop over to the craft table and I'll show you everything we're working with and go to the printer. Here we are on the craft table, and these are the things that we're going to be using today. So I have a green mat, I have craft paper. I thought the craft paper would look a little bit more like, you know, Santa's list than just a normal white sheet of paper. You can buy it in 8.5 by 11 sheets, or you can buy it as a roll. It's really inexpensive. And then I have my printable vinyl. I have some dowel rods also at the craft store for a couple of dollars. I have some string, some twine. I have glue, and then this is just a little embellishment. It would be really cute maybe to put along the top of the list. And then I have my pens and a pair of scissors. So let's go ahead and move everything out of the way, and I'll show you how to move forward with printing the item that we then sent to our printer. Here we are at the printer, and every printer is different. but what I suggest, this is a Canon, and I'll put a link to this one actually down in the description. This printer is less than $100, and it actually does a really great job, and you can use it with your cell phone or your iPad. You don't necessarily have to be hooked up to your computer. So when you get inside of your printer, you guys might not be able to see this, but every printer is going to show you whether you put your paper in face up or face down, and this one is face down. So if you're looking at your printable vinyl sheet on the back, it actually has the grids. So you just want to make sure, for this printer anyway, you want to put it face down. And it's literally as simple as putting in a sheet of paper if you were printing. As you see it coming out of the printer, see how it's got this bounding box, this black box? This is going to be read by your Cricut Maker or your Explore so that it knows where to cut. So it's going to be so cute. Check it out. So now it's time to put these on the green mat for cutting. And so just make sure that you're putting the correct corner in that upper spot, and because you see my items are upside down, but that's just the way that they went to the mat. So we're going to pop them in that corner, make sure that you are lining them up, and your machine is going to read that black box. Okay, so we'll put that down. You can even use your scraping tool, but if you do, I would only use it at the edges and not over the design itself, because you could scratch off some of that beautiful print. Okay, and if your mat is not as maybe sticky as you would like it to be, you can go ahead and put a little bit of clear tape at the edges just to ensure that nothing is going to shift. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that into the machine. Okay, so here we are at the machine, and we're just going to load it under the feeds. And so now we'll press go. Now our machine is going to read this line. Okay, and then we unload and back to the craft table. Okay, so I've taken the sheet off of the mat, and the next thing that we want to do is put our craft paper on the mat. So this is going to be a little bit different. So let's move the mat out of the way for a moment, and we'll put our ruler here. So basically, if you're using the cardstock, that's great. If you're not and you're using the roll, I mean, the same applies, but it's going to take a minute to sort of figure this out. So for mine, I roughly want 4 inches by 7 to get all of my text on it. Now, depending on how long your family list name, that could be shorter or longer, but I think the 4 to 4 1/4 inches is perfect. So now if I'm using a roll of paper, I won't have to rip off all the sides. I'll probably just be ripping off one side, but if I'm using the cardstock, then what we want to do is we want to take it and we want to find roughly the center, and then we want to tear it. We don't want to cut it because we want it to look somewhat rustic, right? So now see, we've got that really fun edge. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to go over and do it to the side. Now, if you can, you want to do it all the way down. And this might take a couple of times. I think this is probably going to be more like 3 1/2 inches instead of 4. But what you would do is then tear it along the top. And then again, you could go ahead and put it on the mat and see how long it ends up needing to be, and then just rip off the pieces that you don't want. So, and you can go shorter bursts like that to kind of get a straighter edge across the top. So we could take this, I'm going to do it one more time for mine because I do want it to be a little bit wider. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take that and put it on our mat. Okay, and so I'm going to use a little bit of tape at the edges just to make sure that it's not going to shift, because this paper, you know, just because it's got the rough edges and things, I just want to make sure it's not going to move. Okay, and so now let's take it over to the Maker and write. Okay, so go back over to your Cricut Design Space and go into edit on that one item that you're going to draw. And so it's going to pop up that it's up here in the top, right? Well, we don't want it to write in the upper left-hand corner of our sheet because we want it to look like a list, and we want to be able to put our printable piece on it. So what you do is you just click on it, And so then you can move it anywhere on the sheet that you want. So if our piece of paper is roughly 4 inches wide, and we know that our header is roughly 1.5 inches, and we want a little place to be able to, attach it to the rod up at the top, and we know it's about 7 inches long total, I think that if we put it right in there, we should be good. Okay, so then we have roughly almost 1 inch on both sides. Okay, so now we can just go ahead and click done and go back and insert it into our machine. Okay, so here we are at the machine. We want to put it underneath the feeds, load it in, and then of course we're going to need to use our pen tool, and I'm using a calligraphy pen. So we'll open up, listen for the click, and then select go. Okay, so now let's take this off of the mat, and we have this tape on here, so just go easy and pull that up. Okay, and pull up here. Okay, and so then you just want to make sure and easily take that tape off. Okay, so now what we want to do is we put our mat out of the way. And with our printable vinyl, it's really a lot like a sticker. And so if you see how flexible it is and it's kind of shiny, what we want to do is we want to peel up the kiss cut, basically, of our nice list. And so if you kind of bend it forward, it will pop up at the edge, and you can literally take it off just like a sticker. And see, when I was talking to you before about bleeds, that's why you want to have the bleed, because it came out perfectly, and see how it cut into, but it's not the same distance at the top of the bottom. The bleed gives the machine that leeway. Okay, so we'll put that out of the way. And now what we want to do is we want to place this in the center just above the names. So cute, guys. This is turning out so nice. Okay, so now the next thing that we want to do is we want to make a hanger for our list. And I think at the end too, we're probably going to curl this up a little bit so it looks a bit more like, Santa's list on a scroll. It's going to be so fun. Okay, so now let's make a hanger for our ornament. And by the way, I decided not to scratch through the hubby on the nice list, right? He'll probably get me a really sweet gift. So, okay, so what we want to do is we want to take our dowel, and we're going to take, these are actually floral snips, and I was going to use them for this little piece of garland, but I am going to also use them on this rod. And I think I want, let's just use a ruler real quick. I think what I want to do is I want the rod to be roughly 1/2 inch or so longer on either side, maybe more of 1/4 inch. And so I want the rod just to come out just a little bit so that I can hang my twine on it. Okay, so what we're going to do then is I'm just going to use the floral snips, and because this is soft, like balsa wood almost, we're just going to clip all the way around and then clip in the center. I just did not, there we go. I just didn't want to mess up my scissors by doing it with those. Okay, so now let's see. Okay, so that's going to be about perfect. The next thing that we want to do is, I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. We're going to take our twine, and I'm just going to tie it on either end and make like a hoop above it. Okay, so I've tied it on one side, and now what I want to do is just sort of hoop it up and see about how long I want a branch to be able to go in there. And so I want it to be about there, so I'm going to cut it a little bit longer because it's so much easier to have a longer piece to tie with and then snip off the edge. So just make a circle, and then we're going to want to do this twice just so that it doesn't come off. Okay, so that'll be about right. And so then we'll go ahead and do that one more time. Okay, so now that you've done that and you can sort of see there's a wave in it, gently kind of fold it over to where it looks like this, like an S, and hold it that way for a couple of minutes. So now what I want to do is I just want to put a bead of glue here and attach my list. Now, if you're not going to put any greenery up there, you may want to rip a little bit more of this off, but because I am, I'm going to keep it just a tad long. Okay, so let's take some, and I like to use this Elmer's Extreme. It is very, very good. Okay, so just a little bit of glue. You can always add more, but I don't like to make my paper wet. Okay, so there we go. So we attach that. And we can always shift our ribbon around a little bit if we need to, or twine. Okay, and we're gonna let that set for a second. And then we're going to take a piece of this, and I'm gonna cut it just a smidge long because I'm going to kind of wrap it like this and attach it to each end. Okay, so now I snipped off a piece of this greenery with my floral snips, and then I'm just going to twist it a little bit so it kind of gives a wavy effect, and it'll go across the whole length of my list up at the top. And so you can just use, this greenery just has wire in it. I got it for like literally $1 or $2 at the craft store, and so we're just going to twist that around one end and then do the same and twist it around the other. Oh gosh, look how cute that turned out, guys. Kind of fluff it up. See the side, how it's kind of curved? It turned out really, really darling. Okay, so what did you think? I hope you enjoyed that craft, how easy it is to personalize and how fun it is, and have a little fun with the naughty list and the nice list. And if you haven't already, guys, please hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. And if you haven't already, hop down in the description below and make sure that you check out all the things that we used here today. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will do my very best to help you out because I want you to enjoy crafting. I want you to have fun with your machine. Okay, guys, see you next time.